Welcome to KD Custom Woodworking. I'm Kevin Dunphy. With this video today, it's not so much about spraying, it's how we got to the spraying, which are so many critical steps. Sanding before you actually stain is so critical, and we're going to dive into it and show and hopefully explain it in a great way. But before we get into that, I'm going to show you our 3D waistcoat molding with the our Art Deco, which is totally cool. I'm so stoked about this. What you see here on this CNC right now, I'm using what's called a V carve. I'm not doing total 3D. It would have taken really a long time for something like this. And this is the key that it's doing right now. And you can see, if you ever thought about getting a CNC, the advice I would tell you is stay away from the desktop ones. I could get into that later, but just do and do your research. For those that are hobbies, say, "Well, I'm never going to buy it." It's a good idea to see what a CNC can do. Look it up, and you could always sub this section out and get somebody to run it. And you don't have to do the whole uh, project. Just one little piece looks cool. All right, so dust has settled. Um, this is going to be waistcoat molding. I just got to rip it down. They're each strips, one, two, three. And we got keys that go in the middle. So yeah, I love the CNC. Oh man, do I love it. Look at this, eh? So I have all my, I remember learning how to run this. It was so hard, but now I'm like a wizard. So these are all my pieces here that inspired me to make this. I actually, I shouldn't say it. I got that off the internet. I didn't do it totally by hand. Some of it I did. I started here by hand. That's by hand. And you see that here. So while that was running, mind you can't turn your back. Now it's onward to the posts. And these are the bad boys. Now you can see that molding, what was influenced, the posts. I'm sanding here, and what I'm finding out that's taken a bit of time on this sander, it has a soft pad. And then finally, I kind of get a little fed up, and then you'll see in a minute, I'll use another sander with a hard pad, and the hard pad cut through it like fast. But the only drawback is it tore up the disc, which in turn wears out your because you have those sharp edges. So soft and hard disc make it. All right, so I'm ready to glue the base in. I'm using PL because there's a little bit of a gap as opposed to wood glue. Wood glue, you got to be nice and flat and tight like that to really work effective. Where if you have a little bit of a gap, the PL will harden up and you won't have an issue. I got to sit nice here, so I don't want to screw it up because the weight of it, I don't need any clamps of it. Will keep it down more than enough. So I'm going to pick this up, not spin it around. A little gentle. There, got it. Like that. And I take it here. I'm not going to spin it around. I don't want to jinx it. So I got it sitting so nice. Now on this part, I'm just putting the PL in there. There's this, like I said, there's a slight gap. I made it like a 16th of an inch right around, smaller, which is an eighth of an inch total. And I'm just smearing it. And remember when you are sanding and doing finishing, there's an order. Just say to yourself, can I get that sander in there, or I'm going to be stuck trying to sand this by hand. If I didn't do this first, the sanding, it would have been like a total nightmare. I wouldn't even want to, try and sand those things flush. It would have just tore up everything and it'd be there forever. So now I'm just adding a little more and I'm just, going to put it down and just let the weight go. I could be slightly off on there, but I could adjust that on the field, and I'm not really worried about like a 16th of an inch. So now we'll just let it cook overnight. All right, it's the next day, and I'm caught here. Um, Now I'm doing the final sanding. We sanded all this first, and if you remember, now you know why we didn't install this at the same time. Till this was, we were totally happy with it. A little bit of sharp edge here. I'll round that out a little bit of sandpaper in a sec. And we sanded all this. We sanded the top part, but not the molding. I waited till it was on. I could have done it when it was up, but I don't know. It was kind of like 4:30, and I wanted to get out of here. And I said, I want this to be dry overnight, so I let it go. Now I just cut up a couple of pieces there from my leftover disc. I don't use that much sandpaper sometimes by hand, like doing the corners. So a lot of times I just reach and use that. But if I was doing a lot, I'd buy some. I have wood glue, and I have mahogany dust. I got fine, coarse, and no matter how good you are at matching, there's always that little bit, like a little hair there that seems to poke its way through. And so, I'm going to fill it. So what I'm going to do first, I got a choice. I could fill this first, or I could start rounding this out. I'm afraid this is so small. If I start rounding it out, I'll fill it with dust, but the dust won't stay in. So I'm just going to take a little bit here. Just work it in that corner ever so slightly. You can use wood filler. Like I have some here, but I prefer this. This will stay in. It's glue, and the heat's about to start up in 1 minute. I'm not about to turn it off. It's friggin' miserable here. It's cold, it's damp, anybody in the southern states needs a cabinet maker that will travel, maybe, in winter months, starting to look better. Okay, so I gotta feel pretty decent. You say, well, why don't you wait till it dries? I'm just gonna pound it in. It just works. So I'm just going ever so slightly. I'm going here. I'll make sure there's no glue in the bottom part there. And I got it. And I take a second look here. I was careful yesterday. I do see one little spot there, but I think that's just rounded out. I'll take care of it. We got a little excess glue there. Yeah, there goes the heat. That's it. Let me zoom in. That's all there is to that little gap. This is one of the parts a lot of people don't realize how important it is to have a good chisel set. Um, like I got a little bit of glue in there that oozed out, so I got like a smaller half-inch chisel, and I'm just poking it out there, and just being gentle, because if I took a sandpaper, you would try to take 2-day-old glue out. It's really hard to sand it out. So the chisel makes life a lot easier. And these 45s I kind of stress how critical they are. The first thing you look at when you see a piece, and part of it is you can also, at the same time, when you have a little overlap, it doesn't really matter how good you are, or how good you think you are. When you start cutting, you could end up a little off, like 0.25 of a degree, and you have a little ridge. And just doing proper sanding techniques will really just make your work look, world class. Is the best way I could describe it. So now I'm going in with an 80, and I'm just going back and forth, and there's I don't, I mean, you can get a little make a little jig or a little convex out of foam, or I have some other things, but I'm just going in here by hand. I'm not going to waste my time like I only have two of these to do, so I'm not going to go too elaborate. I'm trying to break down the other wood that's there. The point thing with mahogany, what's good to give it a sanding, is over time when it sits, the oil has it's oily wood. It comes to the surface, and sometimes you get a little discoloration. So I like to make sure it's roughed up, and it can accept the stain a lot better. And that's really it. Now I'm just going around the corners, just ever so slightly um, breaking it. And, there's going to be little gaps there. And you can see that I put a little wood glue, and I have a little bit of fine sawdust powder. I'm just pounding it in, and I'm going to sand right away, you know, and just that's all there is to it. Just sand right away, pound it only on small gaps. Like we have a big one. Don't try this. It's just like hairline. And what's great about this with the sawdust, you get a pretty good color match when you stain or clear coat it if you're not going to stain. So it works really well. And there again, there's no pretty way to do this. Just keep sanding and getting in those corners. And I'm just rounding. When you round out the outside edges, be careful. You can change the shape on that. And you don't want to do that. And here I got a little ridge, and I just cut the ridge with that chisel. That's all it took. Instead of trying to sand that ridge, sometimes when you got a little piece of sandpaper and you're trying to do a little piece like that, it seems like it could take forever to sand a little ridge like that. So um, that's really it. You saw at the beginning on the last video, I did use wood putty at the beginning. I try not to use it at this stage after I have wood putty in. I don't like wood putty at all. Now here's the chisels I love. I'm going to put a link below. They were a fantastic buy, and just keeping them sharp is so easy. I added a little oil. I'm using WD-40. I don't know if that one's recommended, but it works really good. I love it. Cuts through it very nicely. And I'm using this super fine. I already had it honed. I used a rough one on the other side and then a fine one. And look at that. Like I can't cut paper straight down like that, but watch that. That thing is deadly sharp. So yeah. And here's the tops. And they'll go on the post. Sorry, I get a little tongue tied. Just getting tired of sanding. And if you remember on the last video how I put them together on 4, and now you can see the grain, how it goes around, but the grain isn't exactly straight like our eyes, so it kind of goes a little like this, and it kind of like fools your eye. It looks like I cut it cockeyed. I'll make a decision. Let me see it here too. This one looks a little more straight, and it's a cool effect to okay, so I have all this done on the CNC. I clean these up. I take a little rotor to go around and I left a little skin because I won't some of these CNC lessons just to show you unique molding. Now this is the same thickness as this, and this is basically there's 2 rows here, 1 row, and when it goes in, this is going to be my key. And I did it for a couple of reasons. I'll explain more on the install, but basically, if I'm coming out of the window and I only have maybe a foot, 2 feet, then I can put the key on a piece on each side and still look good and have that repeating pattern. And there's only one wall that's long that goes up the stairs. And I picked out, drum roll please, a cool as hell wallpaper. Art Deco. I'm only doing it like I'm going 32 inches because I have to make sure I'm coming up the stairs. I'm 36, 34 in that range with the handrail. So I'm going to make sure I'm like in this range. And below it will be Art Deco. It's going to look amazing. I thought about paneling. It would have added a lot because I'm going into a lot of detail, all these pieces now really start to eat up a lot of time.
would it have made that much of a difference? I don't think so. When you see all the mahogany, you see this. So I gotta clean the back side. The only part I'm worried about is this here. This gets caught in rollers when you go upside down. So I'm gonna go easy. Let's see how I make out.
I was a little worried that those little diamonds underneath would get caught when I planed it. So I ended up at about, touch under 3/4 of an inch, so I have a healthy 1/4 inch reveal all the way around. That's so critical because you try to do it flush. You'll never get it totally flush in a million years when you install it.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut these individually. I don't like, I'll show you a double one here because I did it in two. I don't like this little ridge, and I think it's gonna just look kind of stupid. I'm just not feeling it there. So I'm gonna cut these ridges off, but if you can see right here, it's just like that. I can go all day like that. Then I just have a little trim up here to finish it. It has to be a little smaller than that, but I can easily, I think, scoop enough pieces and get that. And I love the key though. If we come on over here, the key is, I think, really nice. So if that was a window from here to here or door, I'd put this in the center and et cetera and up the stairs. So that's it with my take. The big thing, if you're doing something like this, always stay below this. And I'm fine with this down below. I don't need to trim below. I got the wallpaper. And I think just create busyness. I just want this to finish it. And it'll keep me honest. If I install that first, then just take these and glue them up. I wouldn't need much. I'd be able to sneak a pin right there in between there. All right, so I'm going to cut them all up individually.
So I cut them up all individually, just be a little easier to install with the ridge. And I just cut one end, and I have a stop right there. And a little bit I had to adjust about 1/16 of an inch. But when you do this, no rings, watches, anything else distract you, and be super careful. I'm not offering any safety advice here, but be careful. Now, did the same thing with the sanding, but this time I used a soft pad. I didn't want to like kill a pad for nothing. I just wanted to get in there and get the diamonds. Obviously, in the grooves, I am not going to go sand that out. I'll fill it up with clear coat, and it'll end up being a little darker, which will add a dramatic effect. And here you go. With all length to length, that's hard to believe. That's 40 feet, and all that work and all that electricity. But motors don't use much electricity, just small joke.
As they say, you, man, oh man, all this sanding just kind of left me a little numb. That's going to be the big thing. When you get more into woodworking, you realize that the finishing is critical. It doesn't matter how well this is made or done or machined or anything. It's not. These edges aren't rounded over and deburred and everything nice and clean. It's going to look like crap. So prepare yourself on the finishing, depending on this finishing. It probably take almost as long to finish it as it does build it. And if I was doing high gloss in like real piano finish, so like I wouldn't try with this. It'd be a freaking nightmare. You're looking at 4 times as long. It's expensive, time-wise, everything else. So don't underestimate the finishing, especially if you're starting out and you want to get into the business. You can really get burned, on time. Now, roll my sleeves back. I got the Gorilla gloves, great gloves, and keep the box still in my hair here. And the stain, I described it before, I haven't changed the stain. What I'm trying to do is I got so many pieces, like we're doing a whole house, and I gotta make sure I can duplicate this. And I didn't make it too cutesy or too complicated. I like taking the brush, I like getting my corners first. All right, my brush is a little stiff because I never clean these. But as soon as the lacquer thinner and the stain hits, look out. So just kind of going here. This part's going to be seen. The little lip under here. All right, got it. And here, that's why I use the brush. I don't like, some instances if it was flat, I would take a rag with stain, but on this case, it's a little many nooks and crannies. This is where it can get you. It goes on top there, and you look underneath, and you see it. You know, I'm going to give it a little shot here. Just rub it in. All right. The only trick I would say, just try to stick on one area. Like there, I was drifting. I forgot a spot there, so I went back. And then sometimes you forget where you are. Now, aside the stainless, remember we had that little talk there in the other video about, I just want everything to be the same. I'm hoping I didn't destroy it too much with the stain, but I think I'm okay. And I'm just gonna take another look. Make sure I'm good here. Get a little shot there. So we look up and there's a little gap. Now just rag. No, I didn't destroy it. Absolutely gorgeous. You know, remember this was the heartwood, the wall. It's really taking the stain nice, not blackening anything. I'm just kind of, remember, you gotta kind of watch your gloves. You know, they will leave a mark. Right now, the worst thing is you don't want to drop this piece, so remember, you know, be careful there, right? I'm just going to go, what I'm taking now is my hands. Okay. That came out pretty decent. Part looks a little wavy, it looks crooked because of the way the grain is. But I think that's kind of cool. Take me a couple hours. Now here, I'm just kind of, I got it over my bucket here, and I'm just really working it in these grooves because it's a lot of end grain, and the end grain absorbs the stain more than the flat part. So, and I don't mind like the inside, the end grains being black and the other part being white. I think it really gives it a nice depth. So that's about it. I'm going to take a look. Do I care about the back? I'd rather leave it natural because I want to glue these on the wall. So there we go. I'm just hitting the edges first. I'm just using a pajama. If this was a light wood, and use the light stain, don't use this. I see the dye lift out, but I'm not really worried about this or this color. I got a little bit of cooling up there at the bottom, you know, and that'll flash off pretty fast. But I'm okay with that. That's it. Okay, so I have all the little pieces stained. I have it on my little rack here ready to be sprayed. It's irrelevant right now, but it's a little late. Normally I'd be gone by now, but I'm gonna stay here. I wanna get one coat before I leave. So it'll be dry tomorrow. I'm only gonna go very light. I'll show that video and I'll narrate it. Now what I'm doing is just going over and making sure everything is no real dust. I don't want to mix up with the stain. Gloves are holding out pretty good. Sometimes they'll start the really cheap ones. That's why you gotta get the thick ones, because the thin ones just blow out. So I'm gonna start here. I like to start top to bottom. The stain drips down, I can kind of go there. So I'm gonna go in the corners. This part, you staining, if you got something complicated like this with all these little corners, you gotta be disciplined. Just worry about one side. Don't worry about any of the other sides because it can drive you nuts. And like I said, I like using that brush because I get in those corners, and that's what's critical. It's not the flat part. The flat part's the easy part. You know, you can get staying there all day long, but it's getting in those corners. And then the other part where you really got to watch, and when you get the corner, sometimes you fill up with a little bit of stain, and you turn around uh, an hour later and see this big streak just jump down, and you have a dark spot. So keep an eye on it, spin it around, even give it a little shake to make sure it stains there. I couldn't do this piece flat, and I was just showing the spray gun, like saying, okay, use a pot. Don't use those little hand cheap ones. You can go get a 5 gallon pot with a spray gun. It will put anything through. I used it when I first opened shop before I got airless to stairless. Not expensive, $300, $400. You got an amazing setup. Because those little guns, I mean, you're going to go through a lot of clear coat when you start getting in this production. Um, there, and then there, I'm just wiping the corners and just making sure nothing comes out. And there we are, all stained after our first spray. And you can see everything just you can see the miters are absolutely almost perfect. I won't use that word perfect because that's the thing with woodworking, it's hand and there are mistakes. So I'm very happy with the look here. I got a little bit of raised in here. It's a little bit like what it is. It goes, best way I can describe it, what happens the first coat is the wood is, you have a lot of pores and you sand and the fine dust tends to fill the pores. And then that first coat goes in there, kind of pulls a bit of the dirt out. Like here we miss, like, pull a bit of the dirt out. And so you get a roughness to it. Like here, this turned out really nice. Too bad I'm gonna cut a hole in that and put a post through it. And you can see, I'm only showing you this because this wasn't staged. And one of them, it was really wide, was up here. I forget where it is now, but you can't tell. That's the art. If you can do that, and then there's all the carvings. And here, the wood just drank it, I tried one here. This sandpaper is so critical in between clear coats. Use one with the foam, find it, get a roll, you'll save yourself a lot of grief. I gave it a light sanding before. Now I'm spraying. I finally got my zoot suit on. I was fed up with the oil coming back at me on my clothes. I stunk for a couple of days after that.
The vertical's hard to spray. I got to really move it and be careful. Flat's pretty easy, and I'm just treating them when I spray one at a time, kind of. And it went by pretty fast. Wasn't that big of a deal. It's the next day. I have, what am I up to now? 3 coats. One coat I let dry, and then I did 2 coats right away. You see here, I had a little bit of a sag, a little run there, we'll call it. But I'm okay with that. I got all this nicely filled, everything sealed. The water base will have an easier time. Runs through my gun a lot better than this stuff. This stuff was really hard to get through the gun. It's not really a spraying product per se, and I just did it strictly just to bring out the grain. And that piece there is for the bookcase at the wall unit. So I just gave them, snuck them in. And you can see our corners, because I did a big tutorial on that. And you see how important that corners are, right? All right. Right. And I backed off because with the heart, you can see the top has a slightly different color, not as intense. And I really like it. But it's too bad I'm going to have a pole coming up through it, you know? All right. Onward. Let's put this together and I'll show you what it's going to look like. I had a comment, and I love the comment. He went in the last video. He went, bro, the work doesn't look like the picture. It's a conceptual drawing, but this is the vibe I'm trying to create: a sophistication and elegance. And the whole house is going to be like this, but I'm not copying exact per se. Put my own take on it. So let's see what we have here. You know, when you do stuff like this, you got to be able to kind of visualize things, and because I'll never have this. If you can look past here in a shop, because the shop's always dirty, dusty. It's when you do woodworking, it's hard to keep up with. Okay, so I got a molding right here. Look at this, eh? Now I'm about 6 inches up on this, and I went streamlined, a little round up here because I like that better for the finish over the years. And I got our base blocks. The moldings will kind of butt into here. All right. I could cut them down if I feel they're too tall. Then we got our casing that comes up. It's a 2-part system. It'll go in here, but here, and then I put corner blocks, but I went a little bigger. I didn't go corner, but it has the same vibe. All right. And then this was the little blocks we did on the CNC, and there's the key. The key goes in between. Then I go next one, and et cetera, et cetera. I added the key, it's because I think it adds a lot of elegance from that era. On top here, I'm gonna have to get a piece to finish it. Something I'm thinking, whipping up another load of this. I don't think I have enough of these. And then that looks absolutely gorgeous. And I went here 45 and came up. Hello. All right. So not playing around here. Now this is a little baby. I won't be lifting this with one hand, so 2 hands. Okay. So now you can see how everything's kind of blending in. I'm creating a vibe. The high gloss here that you see, all this will be satin. This is our final coat right here. This is about over a year old. This is faded. And believe it or not, this will fade. Not so much in the end grain, but all the flat part will fade. And the same with here. Once you get the satin on, it ages, because I only use really an oil-based stain with a little bit of dye. It's not very powerful. Now I'm going to disconnect the camera. These are the doors for the wall unit. They're
satin, a little bit of shine right now because I got it facing in fluorescent lighting. Um, and that's going to be for the wall unit. So we're very pumped. Next week, I'm going to start finishing this. This is only like 4 coats of like the sealer there, what we were using. Then we're going to start using 2K urethane, and we're going satin. Like I said, I couldn't afford to do this high gloss. It'd be insanely expensive. So please tune in next week, another video. I'd like to thank all the new subscribers. I'm loving our numbers now, really starting to take off. So I'm still, we're still iced in a bit. It's starting to thaw out, if you can see here. But man, is it gloomy. You know, I mean, I'm envious of people in California and southern states. So that's it. Thank you, and thank you for all the support. And for the link there for the chisels and also the saw blade, I'm going to give a link for that because, man, did that make a hell of a difference. I'm using Diablo. This one was a little different. That was a thin one. This is just a ripper. And they really, really are, they'll make your life so much easier, you know, when you're tackling this kind of wood.